Mm. Hi, hello again. Welcome back to my latest experiment of being a YouTuber. I'm too old for this, or okay. What we're going to talk about today? We haven't even made our bloody list of notes. It's all in the head, and we don't have the most perfect header anymore. We sometimes forget things, and as you might notice, we might occasionally be imperfect. So. Some of the things, quick brainstorm, then tests. Some people had to talk a bit about tests and what was going on in your mind about tests, he said. Further down, there was some talk about a mutation, checking out what the latest on mutation was. Also in there was the benefits, or let's have a look at this. That could mean anything. What we think benefits was meaning, because we sort of, if you've never worked with somebody who knows more than one language, you wouldn't understand what terrible difficulty it is working with people who say benefits. And you know, what do they mean? I want to tell you what that meant. That meant things like vitamin D can benefit the sickness of, what's it called, COVID-19. Right. So what sort of things actually help? What helps? Yep. Now, let me try that. Okay. I'll just go with benefits for a while then. I don't want to call it benefits. Okay. Vitamin D, vitamin C, both believed to be helpful. Vitamin D can come from sunshine, so get out there in the sun, get your shorts on, build up your strength, especially you old men. Maybe that's why old men are dying from it easier than old women, because maybe the women do the gardening and the men sit inside watching TV, sport, going to the pub, sitting inside, sleeping too much, not getting outside and seeing the fresh air, not going running, not showing off their legs. They're heavy, they're overweight, they've got heart disease. They have diabetes. Some of them might have cancer, who knows? They're sicker, aren't they? They don't live as long. And this is a real filter. It's a filter that just basically filters out crap. And the old men have been quiet for too long. How's that? Am I doing all right with my young brothers there now? Or what? Hey. I can't do that one. That's Jimmy Savile. I can't do AA. Why is that got in there? I don't know, actually. I do all kinds of characters. You know, I used to. I'm trying to think which ones. I don't know. I'm not very good at Bond. The name's Bond. James Bond. What else? As my YouTube channel running out of material, am I going to have to end it prematurely? What? It will come probably to a natural end, I imagine, although maybe I'll get a job in something to do with it. Maybe I'll just keep it going for like 10 years until I've got enough viewers to actually get some advertisement and make some money out of all this. But in the meantime, I'm getting useful experience. And there's a lot of pressure. You know, I mean, what I've realised, let's be honest, I mean, I've had like about 100, 150, 200 views maybe in total of like my 6 episodes. It's now my 7th, episode number 7. And this one now, there's not a lot to say because the pressure we were under has really been lifted by kind of telling God via YouTube that we have an expert you can go and listen to. So I think a lot of people have left my site and gone and seen the sites I've recommended on Facebook, such as John Ioannidis, or whatever his name is, and Professor Knut Witkowski, these sort of people. So they're off watching those and not watching mine anymore. So it's kind of just like you and me. It's kind of like talking to the computer as if it was like my pet dog and it would listen. And it does, and it even records, and it even puts the information out there, saved, so anyone can look at it at a later date. Which is actually, we decided, quite helpful for my mental health. It gives me a video diary, it's something there for posterity, and this is an important time we're living through. It's a very, very important time. It's called the lockdown, and like I said, I'm used to lockdown, so I can handle this. There's a lot of people are going, well, I'll just watch a Netflix, I'll do some exercise videos, the last thing I maybe watch YouTube, but if I'm going to watch it, I'm going to watch like my favourite bands and do all the kinds of things that I've been doing for years, watching, doing stuff. And what I realised, I was just taking a shower there, is this is actually a time for me to say dust off my PhD. You want me? Have I got it? It's hiding. I can't find it. Sorry, can't find it. But you can check my credentials. It's on Imperial College, 1999. Professor David Gray, examined by Michael Neuberger, Professor Michael Neuberger and Professor Sublitsky. Now, what can I tell you? Oh yeah, this is really important. I'm not prepared for it. No, but okay, we were talking about the fact that up to day seven. If you look at the immune response, imagine you get a vaccination. You might well know that the immune system then looks at that little bit of dirt that's being chucked into your arm, and it says, okay, I'll start processing that. And after about 7 days, it's pretty much had a really good look at it, and it's found who are the best contenders. And it's early days in like the whittling down process, but the immune system pretty much knows that by about 2 weeks, your body has to have a pretty good way of getting rid of anything that started growing in it that shouldn't be there, such as bacteria, such as viruses. And for that reason, when it comes to about day 7, there is a lot of activity, and we don't know a huge amount about exactly what's happening there. And it's a very difficult process to study. And what happens on day 1 is interesting, what happens on day 2 is interesting. So I'm trying to draw a parallel with my video diaries here and say that we're kind of going through an immune response, perhaps. So here we are, day 7. It's getting a little bit tedious. It's not the same as the excitement of day 1 or 2. It's not the same as the excitement of day 14 when all of a sudden the fantastic army have to be in perfect fighting order to I'm going to have to be ready in 14 days with a fantastic fighting army. That's interesting. Maybe the police will turn up on my door and say, what's all this rebellion, and crush it, or I survive. I don't know, it's interesting, maybe. So here we are, saying now, trying to maybe just say, well, what's good? There are drugs, aren't there? There are drugs, but vitamin C and vitamin D, 2 of the most useful things you can have. That's why we encourage getting out there doing your gardening. But in terms of a YouTube channel, here we are at 8 minutes. It's kind of grinding to a halt. It's getting boring. People are going, turn off, watch something more interesting. There's plenty out there. It's only if people are addicted and have to listen to me. And I'm about the only person that's going to be that is me. So here I am, losing viewers, you see. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Oh, okay. Put something useful in. Well, there's a new movement. It's kind of like the Mo Farah. I always think when he does that, I just imagine like he's like eating monkey brains. You remember Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom, where you just get the monkey brain and go, he pulls apart and it opens up like a melon. Sorry. I just thought I've got to be a serious scientist. No. I mean, we're in lockdown. We're kind of bored. Tests. Right, serious matter of tests. Okay, 2 types of tests. PCR test. Do you know what? PCR test was only really invented probably around about, was it 1980s, something like that, maybe 1970s, something. So prior to the 1970s, this disease would have just gone down as a severe cold that caused pneumonia and killed off large numbers of vulnerable people, such as the elderly. Colds tend to be caused by rhinoviruses, interestingly, but 15% are caused by coronaviruses in humans. And when I say it's a rhinovirus, that's just the name of the virus. It doesn't come from the rhino. The coronavirus doesn't always come from the bat, but this coronavirus came from the bat via probably a pangolin somehow into the human world. We've got amazing technology now, gene sequencing technology, which allows us to know that. We didn't have that. We probably didn't have the full, we wouldn't have been able to do what we're doing today 10 years ago. Okay, maybe a little bit, but now we've sequenced just about every genome going. So there's obviously viruses and animals we don't know about, but we're pretty much getting to the end of it. We've found everything there is to find on this planet. I mean, that's going to come a day, that's going to happen. But on this occasion, we got caught out, unless you believe any of the conspiracy theories where they said, this was created in a government laboratory. Yeah, any of those sort of things. So these tests, because they were able to isolate the virus, they were able to sequence the entire genome, and they found out, in terms of letters, it was about 22,000 letters long, which is very, very short by standards of, say, a human genome, which is incredibly long, so long that you know, it's like comparing, how much money your mum's got with how much money Donald Trump's got. And chances are, seeing as I'm speaking to the masses, your mum doesn't have any money. Donald Trump has it all. She's got enough to get by, but he's got it all, and he's president of America. We'll try and avoid politics on this channel because it's specifically devoted to dealing with the pandemic. However, because a pandemic affects the entire population, not only of the country you're living in, but the entire world, and the entire world is made up of countries that interact together, that we're all really part of this big global community. So, a big global community, I'm part of it, you're part of it. If a pot breaks, we all cry and we all try and fix it. And that's the nice thing about being part of a big global community. Yes, true. I agree. That's a good part. That is the brilliant part. And in fact, this pandemic itself, the way it's being managed, certainly, and because lots of people are dying and suffering and being in isolation, and not only are the doctors and nurses doing a brilliant job, but the whole community is rallying around. And that's a beautiful thing to see. Around the world, communities are getting closer and stronger in their own community, but they're also knitting interactions with other communities. And just by doing a YouTube, I think that proves a lot of it, because this kind of stuff I might have had with some random stranger in a pub, an English public house for drinking beer and wine and the like, and we could have had a good old chat in the old days. But those sort of things have gone. Butts and storytelling and telling the old sagas, all these kind of, where you sit around for hours listening to somebody go on and on about some amazing long story, and we've lost the skills. We've lost the skills. I know it in my heart. I know I don't have these skills. I can't tell these long stories. So I'm basically having to make up a story for our times. And even if I only get a YouTube viewing figures of 1 or 2, if those one or two little facts from those 1 or 2 little viewers can help change the world in a positive way, then I feel I've reached out and done a little bit for both my own community and the international community. And as I've just said, these days we do depend upon each other so much. So that's good, and I'm happy with all that. But tests, yeah, in the old days we couldn't do it. You just say you got a cold and the cold finished you off. End of discussion. If a lot of people got finished off, it was a very nasty cold, or cough, or flu, and they might even say, yes, it was a flu pandemic or whatever. But even in 1918, it would have been difficult back then to be absolutely 100% sure that it was influenza that was causing it, because they didn't have the microscopes and the DNA sequencing and the PCR tests and the antibody tests. They didn't have any of that, as far as I know. So I'd be interested to know how they even knew it was influenza. Maybe it was just by the symptoms. But a lot of influenza is just same symptoms as a serious cold, isn't it? Headache, runny nose, cough, possibly leading to pneumonia. But pneumonia, although it might be started by a virus, is very often, as was pointed out to me by my builder friend, he said they might need antibiotics for the pneumonia, and some relatives, you know. So I couldn't really argue with him. I'm not a hospital doctor. I'm a scientific doctor. Tries to help in this hour of need. As I was saying, you know, this is I've been out of work for a long time, so I'm taking this opportunity not necessarily to make hay while the sun shines, even if nobody watches this YouTube. It's there for forever. It's there as a video diary, like Samuel Pepys, or who was that other famous one? The guy who wrote a diary. Oh, the famous diarists. I think Pepys was probably the most famous. This is one I could think of now. Anyway, so sorry if I couldn't think of the one you wanted. I'm so sorry. I'm such a useless human being. I've really let myself down in life. You know, why am I not some big professor in some big American university representing Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland and my family and... Oh, blimey, you're going to ask me that in the middle of a live recording? That's a completely different matter, Dove. Completely different matter. I mean, all right, you can't caught me on the hop, and I can do it and leave it in if you want, or I just edit this one out and delete it. But I let myself down. Simple answer. Simple answer. Yeah, I let myself down. But there's more to it than that. And that is, we get knocked down, but we get up again, and you're never going to keep me down. So, what to do? There's so many things coming into my mind, and I'm getting lots of ideas, but where I really want to probably touch on is what's top of my list here. Tests. We couldn't do them, I said. That's as far as I've got, innit? Yeah, well, I can give you an answer. I can. PCR tests, we couldn't do them. Serology tests, we couldn't. We might have been able to do serology tests before we could do PCR tests. That's for sure. PCR really revolutionised testing, but I'm not really here to give a history lesson or go through an exam as to what I know and what I don't know. And you know, a lot of this, there's a very good chance I'll get caught out by making some mistakes, and I have to live with it because there it is on my YouTube, and I either delete my YouTube, which might be too difficult to do because it's not very exciting. This one, is it? Episode 7. It's incredibly boring. What has happened to episode 7? Why is it so shit? I'm a bit miserable, you know. A bit miserable that I didn't get, like, you know, 100 views for episode 6 yet. But yeah. But as I said, it doesn't matter. It's not about the. It's not quantity. It's quality. And the quality's gone out of it, man. It's gone out of it. I'm hitting like this depression. I think it's one that might have to be deleted. I don't know. What do you think? Well, look. Tests. Do we have to do them? One of the best reasons for doing tests is so we can work out what the mortality ratio is. So we can work out what the mortality ratio is, we can go and find out what data to plug into these important models. Okay, so these important models, we've touched on them, the Imperial College model. If we plug that data in accurately, and we plug in an accurate R0, in fact, that will the testing will also give us a more accurate R0 value. I expect these kind of values are useful in that model, and without them you're just making a wild stab in the dark, a random guess, and therefore what you really have is a probability distribution of where of the likelihood of where that mortality ratio, for example, where it sits. For example, is it 1%? Is it 5%? Is it 0.01%? Nobody really knows, and that's important, as is the number of people that get infected from meeting an infected, from an infected person, how many they pass it on to the other. So without these kind of values, how you can estimate and say, oh, 500,000 people are going to die unless you immediately impose draconian measures on your population, is a big question, and I want to ask. I put it on Facebook. I want to ask that Prime Minister's question time, but because we don't have that, the best thing you can do is put up. Andy's in hospital and he might die in a day or two. You never know. But you can put on the, you can ask, that's what I'm trying to say. Put on. You can ask, you can ask, you know, people do on that television thing, when I ask them what is the big thing about the test I put on Facebook, and I look at them, what it is just saying, you know, antibody tests, unless you do them, unless you do the serology of a finite population, say you take a town, an entire town, and you take blood samples from it, from everyone in that town, or that block of flats, or whatever you want to call it, prison maybe, yeah, and you monitor how this disease spreads, because we don't know enough about it. So we need more of that kind of data. Obviously, the people in government will be the first to get their hands on it, apart from the people who are actually doing the, you know, pipette. Yeah, I used to use one of them. Pipette. Multi-channels, all that. So there's that. Yeah, well, so when we do that, we'll be able to have a little bit more of a reliable model. Until then, you've got wildly varying estimates from, you know, 1,000 people dying, which is probably normal for for the UK for a week, up to, you know, pick a random figure. To be quite honest with you, you just pick a random figure as your upper estimate, and that's all he did. That's basically all that model was able to do. That's how shit it was. Yeah, but obviously, some people want us to be more like China. Not so much in that we have a communist government. No, not at all. Boris wouldn't want that. But when you have totalitarian regimes, you have two types. You have the fascist totalitarian regime, which there's a danger any right-wing government could move towards. And you have a communist totalitarian regime, and there's a danger that China's already gone too far with that, and that's why the Hong Kong are always protesting, because they don't think people get a fair trial over there. And they have their rights and freedoms, and we have our rights and freedoms. Temporarily, those rights and freedoms are not what they used to be. And as an immunologist who knows that this lockdown, well, not the lockdown might go on forever, but you've got this problem that you're going to get these second waves, you see. Second waves, where as soon as you stop the lockdown, because the curve that was going to go up like this and then come crashing down, and the NHS was going to be totally, you know, people would be dying in corridors. It would be terrible. And of course that would be, if that was realistic. And we've discussed in all the previous videos why that was unlikely to be as bad as people said it was, and we've now got support from an expert. So take the heat off me. I'm relaxing a bit. This is episode 7. I'm relaxing. Episode 6, he's the man. Episode 5 or 6, whatever it is. Go and look at the Knut one. The one called Knut, K-N-U-T. That's the one you need to know about. And once you've had a good listen to that, and you've fired your socks off, let me... Sorry, I can't smell on YouTube. It's not smell-o-vision yet. Oh God, I'm a live on-air fart. I'm proud of that. So, that's actually healthy for your immune system now, because you get bacteria from your gut, which is healthy. fills your nose, gets to your mucous membranes, and stimulates your immune system to say, oh, we kind of like this. The immune system kind of likes it. It's true, right? This is why gardening is good for you, which is why being too cleaning, if you clean everything like religiously, is bad for you. You begin to get diseases because you're not exposed to dirt. Possibly that includes diseases like arthritis. It's something to think about Some people have claimed there was evidence for that. Whether there's enough evidence to convince you, I don't know, and I'm really not too bothered at the moment. I'm just mentioning it as a, you know, it's not, it's not, I'm not making this all up. So, I'm not recommending you fight in public. But you can if you want. I just think it's your problem. You know, I'm not here to be your nanny and tell you what to do and what not to do. You do what you want. You know what the problems are with things you do. You're intelligent. You know, grow up, be wise, be good children, be good adults. You know, help out in your community. Help little ladies cross the road. Take them their Meals on Wheels. You know, but also don't forget the soldiers that died in the Second World War. And if you stifle scientific debate just by saying, government lockdown, help the NHS, save lives, government lockdown, help the NHS, save lives, then you are nothing but a Dalek. You are nothing but a soldier of a government who is carrying out their orders regardless of whether they make sense or not. And that is not in the spirit that we fought and won the Second World War. I see. The single, yes. There you go. Thank you very much. Okay, right. We can do this. You like this one if you want. Yeah, I got a little bit of that left. I don't know how sensible it's going to be, but tests. So tests, serological tests. Serological tests, yes. Very, very important. They've been going on for quite a while. You can do use the antibody to tell you that you use one antibody to stick to another antibody, and you stick the antigen in there, and you do something called a sandwich ELISA, which basically says you do or you don't have antibody, and you probably use some kind of way of reporting the system, such as maybe a colourful enzyme like horseradish peroxidase, which changes the colour of certain things. And you know, the lady who won Miss World by doing the amazing chemistry experiment live on stage, where everything went up, boom, you know, the foam, the colour, yeah, good, right? Well, that's kind of what antibody tests, how they work, you know. Chemical reactions, colour, chemical reaction shows you it's there, it's not there, but you have to build up layers, like a brick, like a layer of bricks and a layer of mortar and another layer of bricks, maybe a different colour layer of bricks and then a layer of mortar and that kind of thing. And then you put your reaction in. I know it's just kind of like taking your photograph and go, wow, bang, result, okay? So, so that's that. And I'm really dragging this one on, the test. Oh, should we bother doing them? Right, so at the moment, you've got an NHS worker. I told you, one of the reasons for doing it is we can get information which we can plug into the model. That's one good reason for doing it. I was sort of thinking, well, you've got an NHS worker, is he fit to go to work or not? Gosh, it gets complicated, doesn't it? So let's run through what sort of happens. He feels sick, so he's advised to go home. He goes home, the next day he feels better, so he says, I would like to go back to work. And they say, sorry, there's a COVID-19 outbreak going on. So then he says, oh, well, can I come back? They said, well, have you been tested for COVID-19? He says, well, no, they're taking forever to do the test. They say, well, get it as soon as you can. So a day or two later, he gets the test, gets the result another day or two later. And that tells him that let's just say he might be positive, he might be negative. Okay, yeah, just consider them both. So if he's negative, he can go straight back to work because it wasn't COVID, or he's recovered. If he's positive, doesn't make much sense because he might carry on being sick because he hasn't got rid of it. Oh yeah, he's still positive, yeah. So he has to keep fighting that off because he might go down and he has to save his energy to fight off the COVID. Yeah. Plus, he might infect people at work. I mean, I know the patients might infect people at work, and I think that's happening a lot. And that's why there's been such a big debate about whether the government really invested enough in proper PPE or whether they just gave them the real, you know, cheap and nasty kind of PPE. But how do you plan for a pandemic? Who's got the money to do that? You know, it's not going to win you any votes at election time. Oh, we're spending 10 billion on the best PPE equipment going just in case there's a pandemic around the corner, when you've got a crappy rail network system and HS2 and HS3, you know, there. And, you know, I think I said about this, poor Boris has broken heart losing his HS2 or his HS3 or whatever, HS4 or 5 or whatever it is he's up to. And, you know, it's sad, but hey, I'm
I'm not sure trains are the future anyway. You know, aeroplanes are pretty amazing. So, you know, maybe this is a good thing. But notice what's happening. Not only is Boris not getting his railways, the airlines are going to go bankrupt too. And all the pilots and the air hostesses, they're having to be furloughed. And it's a nightmare. Everyone's so like, oh, but they're getting time off work. They're getting to spend time with their family. All right, they can't go to the park and they can't have a barbecue like in their garden in case their neighbour like smells them or something like that. It's you know, we've got to be a little bit careful, and the police have got to be realistic, and there's got to be a bit of healthy leeway with interpretation of, you don't want the police to become too heavy-handed and draconian and, you know, start running around the street hitting people with truncheons, you know. That's what people are genuinely afraid of. Yeah, we don't have guns. The police do have guns, but, you know, you'd be a fool to do anything that encouraged them to get them out. Let's be honest. Yeah. So where else? What else we got to say on that? We're running out of time. Yeah, because half an hour's up, and this has been the most boring episode, isn't it? Yeah. So tests. Oh yeah, here's this guy. He got the test. Has a PCR test done. He can't go back to work. Let's say the first case scenario, he's still positive, so he can't go back to work. Or she, obviously, yeah. So that person is now self-isolating. Yeah, until they take a test that says they're negative. So they've got to keep going back for a test until they're negative. Yeah. Okay. Then if they if they're negative, they can go straight back to work. That's the beauty of it this way. Yeah. Okay. So they're straight back to work, let's say, and that's fine. And we don't know yet whether they're going to catch COVID-19 because maybe the test never came up positive for them. I mean, it might have come up positive and then negative, and that's why they've gone back to work, or it might have never come up positive. So what we don't know is if they're safe. They might get reinfected at work. Yeah, and we've said, I think, previously and elsewhere, that the reason getting infected at work, even if you've had it before, you know, we don't know if these, if mutant strains, or if the immunity is not perfect, or if mutant strains are going to start infecting people and giving them a second dose of this, because, you know, they might be about. Yeah. Much less likely if we've had the, you know, if you've had a cold before, if you've had influenza before, yeah. First of all, herd immunity is protecting you against all the other weird strains. They're not out there. Herd immunity has removed them. But in this case, it's a very, very important point, you know, that herd immunity is not out there at all. So we're not used to having like multiple strains of influenza going around at one time, because herd immunity blocks them. And you've got personal immunity to like most of the influenzas that have been around, either from your mother giving you protective milk, antibodies, or having seen them yourself, or herd immunity, meaning they're a fire that just ain't burning. That fire's been put out, it's not spreading. Yeah, but what we've got is I've got a wildfire, and this wildfire is saying, I can leap across classrooms and infect everybody. I can leap across nursing homes and infect everybody. Yeah. Now, children don't get burnt up in this fire. Old people get burnt up in this fire. Yeah. And what you're telling me is you don't want herd immunity. You want to save old people and then get a second wave. Yeah. And we've kind of veered off the subject of the testing. Yeah, but it's all part and parcel of it. But so what you've got then, and this is difficult, you know. I'm closing my eyes, it's difficult. What you've got is you've got this herd immunity, or you've not got herd immunity. You've got no herd immunity with a lockdown. The herd immunity you've got is maybe 10% because of the kids and the adults that got it before the lockdown. Yeah, that's not enough. So in the wildfire analogy, if the fire comes into the room and there's lots of things that can burn, the fire will rip through all those, it will spread. It will spread like a wildfire, yeah. Everything will burn, And then once all that's burned, the kids will survive, and the kids will say, didn't even notice it, like St. Elmo's fire or something like that. Right. But the old people who are busy saying, I've got answers to this, I've got answers to this, I've got this disease, I know this disease, I've had this disease, I was there with Spanish flu and I got resistant to that, I've had this rhinovirus, this coronavirus, this Pica virus, this adenovirus, I've had this, I've had all of them, right? But I've never had this new novel coronavirus, yeah. And so why do they die of it? Yeah, but you're asking me questions and taking me off at tangents that are really disturbing, because I really was wanting to talk about testing. And, if you listen to my other 6 episodes, you probably won't need to be asking these questions, which is why it's frustrating that you haven't watched them. And that's what's frustrating me at the moment. I don't mind if this goes on. I don't mind if this goes on for 2 hours if necessary, but out of respect, it would help if you don't just try and go to the back of the book and know all the answers and then say what happened in chapter 1 and who's this character, and try and read the book backwards, which is a bit fucking stupid, which is maybe what some people are doing. Did I say that word? Yeah, it's good, isn't it? Why not? It's after the What He Said. Kids might watch it. It wasn't designed for kids, and it's YouTube, so I'm not going to put a block on my site just because I accidentally said the F word on one of them. If parents don't want their kids hearing that language, then they say you're not allowed to watch YouTube, or you're not allowed to watch this guy, and then get an obscenity rating, or I bleep it out or edit it out. I do apologise, but you probably heard that word before, kids. Anyway, so testing, we sort of touched on that, and we sort of touched on again on why herd immunity is important. And when they say herd immunity, you won't get. If the disease goes through, you've got 10% and you've got no herd immunity, and the disease comes through, and you go, we're all going to get infected because we don't have any herd immunity. It don't matter if you're young and fit and healthy. So the kids are still okay. That's why you isolate the old people, because they're not okay. You don't isolate everybody, because then the kids don't get their herd immunity. You can't just say we're going to do this whole thing without herd immunity unless, and now we're going to this benefits thing, unless you're one of those people who just says, look, there's too many people in the world. If we do it this way, rather than just getting one wave of old people dying, we get a second wave of old people dying later, and a third wave of old people dying later. Climate change is a bitch, yeah. I think that's why they're doing it. I don't know. I'm not an expert enough. I don't move in lofty circles. But they are scientists. They do know their stuff, and you can't live without them. You can't kill all the scientists and expect to keep going. Because this is a high-tech society. Depends on science and engineering and knowledge. And that can only come from a lifetime of training under another scientist. Took me years. I'm glad I am one, but then I've missed out on a lot of years, Which is tragic for me. It means I'll never be the top dog, perhaps. But once it started happening to me, I pretty much realised I wasn't going to go straight to the top of the pyramid. I was going to take a more laborious route upwards. I was going to walk along. I was going to walk up one and then along a little bit and then take a bit and then maybe up again, rather than going like straight up to the top. Yep. But there was some talk about mutation, things like that. We were thinking about trying to bring in some of the latest stuff on mutation, because every day there's new sequences. There might be new sequences. I might add them on at the end of this as a separate clip. So not a lot I can really add. I think we might have touched on that certainly in the Facebooks. Whether we've touched on YouTube's, I'm not really sure. Try and rack my brains. Was there any talk about it? Escape mutants that would mean that the vaccines won't work. Mutants that would mean you might get infected a second time. We've touched on it, yeah, but I don't think we've shown a graph, so I'll try and get the graph shown. An update from yesterday on Sweden. Two things to say on that. Sweden does seem to still have a flattening curve. It hasn't gone to a massive peak, despite the doom-mongering of certain epidemiologists such as Ferguson and his model and his his bunch of panicking panicking idiots. Yes, the kind of people that would cause a stampede and lead to half the people at the temple getting crushed. A modern panic, yes. And so I'm fully with Mr. Professor Knut Witzkowski. Very difficult name now. I'm going to keep calling him King Canute because that's what he is to me. Go back, says King Canute. The people won't listen. They think I can stop these waves coming. Oh my God, you couldn't write it, could you? Okay, so that's that. And other benefits, is there not any other benefits we can think of, things like that? If you are fit and healthy, you know, if you've had disease before. I'll tell you one we haven't mentioned, you might be interested in: starve a fever, feed a cold. There's one we're working on. We've had some nice feedback from the University of California, San Diego. The chap who shared that video I recommended from San Diego. Yeah, Surak or something like that. Suresh. I do beg your pardon. I should get better at referencing these things. This is a nightmare, this one. Yeah, this is just me, like, I've had a bit of social interaction with people, and, you know, I've had a beer, and not enough. I need another one. Plus, I've got it all out off my chest on episode 6. So this is more what it's like. It's more like, it's kind of like they've all run off to see the expert, and if they're going to hassle him, they're going to hassle him. If they're going to praise him, they're going to praise him. And so I don't get the praise, I don't get the hassle, and I'm just left with my ragtag crew. And I've kind of lost the spiritual crew who are driving me and putting me up to new heights of greatness. I've just got my local crew now. So so that's what we're left with, yeah. So the mutations thing, you keep skipping around. No, before the mutations thing, the starve fever. Yeah, so we got feedback from UC, San Diego, yeah. Basically, the guy works on peroxisomes. Peroxisomes are organelles which live inside cells, which kind of full of dangerous, nasty stuff. And they're supposed to do things like destroy viruses and bacteria and things like that. And it's quite possible that when the virus explodes out in its release, it's quite possible that it ruptures peroxisomes and causes extra damage, because the cells basically, you know, you imagine they're carrying loads of toxic stuff in their peroxisomes. If those peroxisome membranes lyse, or rupture, as you might prefer to think of it, they release all the toxins, and those toxins then are going to cause tissue damage in a way far, far worse than any puny little virus would cause. And we know that because children don't die of this disease. Yeah, and they release virus. When they get infected, they release it. So is their immune system working really that fast to clear it off? Or is there something very strange going on? And we could go off on a tangent, waffling away about that kind of thing forever. But the important point was, he said autophagy. Autophagy is where cells go around eating parts of other parts of themselves. So part of your body might eat another part of your body. A cell might eat a dead cell, that kind of thing. And that might help, well, in many ways, keep you healthy. But and it's encouraged by starvation, and it might be, we're thinking it might be a good idea to starve some patients, because this also, as well as the autophagy thing, which that UC professor would be an expert in, I'm dreadful. I'll get around to this. This is just me, just like having some downtime, and that, you know, it's not like a proper medical report, you know, not always. Sometimes you can be edited. Some things can be good for one thing, some things can be good for another. Yep. And that is, I'm really not with it, am I? I'm not. It's just like knackered. I'm just not really bothered. Trying to motivate myself. So yeah, well, we were saying also viruses, you know. they go, you know, when they get these curves of all kinds of stuff happening, they go like that, and then you go, oh, wow, that went up really fast. Well, what if you had a curve that went like this and went, boom? It didn't go there and do a nice curve, a nice gentle curve. You can imagine a ball rolling along. It goes more like a brick wall, along and up and across. And that's potentially what viruses are like, that they go vroom, 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 vroom. That's how they grow. And so that's why, first of all, you get a little bit of sniffles, and then you get completely dead, completely knocked out by these viruses. Yeah, so we were knocking that idea around earlier, and that might have something to do with the starvation thing, because if you're starving, then those proteins, the virus needs protein to make itself. So if you starve the patient, you might find that he's got no protein to make viruses, so he just sits there. He's got the virus DNA, or RNA in this case, sitting there. He's got the virus RNA sitting there, but he can't make protein. So the cell, in the absence of protein, the cell's unlikely to burst and release all the virus particles, because there won't be loads of virus particles, because there was no protein. So that's our big thing. It is our big thing. It's one. We have other big things, you know, and we keep them secret. And I suppose this is the episode where we reveal that one for you, and it might save lots of lives. So if it does, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like the idea. You heard it here. James Sutton, Dr. James Sutton, immunologist in waiting. The immunologist who came in from the cold. The spy who loved you. Yeah, man. Okay. You want me to do some voices and shit? Yeah, man, I'll do some voices and shit for you, you know? I just going off, I didn't think I was going to go off to the that far, you know? I thought I was maybe going to go a little bit different, that one, you know? But I don't know what I got to say, you know, because, well, if it's the mutation, we got to see the Charlie, you know, we'll be more good one, we like that. And that's not the only voice you do, you know? You do hard voice too, but this one going, the first one coming out, right? Test, I ain't got no test, man. Test, we just talked about tests earlier, and you know, this guy can do tests, but they don't ask him, you know. They don't phone him up and say, come in and do tests, we need tests, you know. They just say, you know, of interest. That's it. That's all you got, you know. Well, you want to switch to that one, do it. You're going to switch to it. Oh my golly, we're gonna switch to it for like that. Oh, I got it. Oh, dear God. You know the quick never, you're very big, you know. I got a good point now, you know. Good point there, people, you know. Lots of good doctors, you know. Them cricketers, you know, the cricket lovers. Cricket lovers, they got a lot of good doctors. What they all doing in America if they love cricket? I don't know, man. You don't know. I don't know. I don't know, you know. I don't know. You know, I don't know. You don't know. I don't know. Nobody know. You know, we're all in the dark on this one, you know. Oh, you got that one too? You know, got that. I got that one. But different, you know. Oh my golly. Oh golly, G bala. It done a mandak zita bola bunty zanato katomo G. So that's what it's kind of like, you know. Fuck knows if it's 5G or what, man. We can keep it up. I think a little demo is enough for most people. Yeah, especially if they're going out live on YouTube. They might say you've got these talents, you've spent all that time learning it. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I just get taken over by the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost speaks lots of languages. It's a good point, actually. Yeah, I do speak in tongues sometimes. But I'm not sure if I should tell everyone or keep it secret. Yeah, it's a good point, yeah. I mean, why don't I speak Dutch? Good point. Let's try and do Dutch. I'm from the Netherlands. That is all I can tell you. Satellite. That's clearly Sweden. I cannot do it. No, it's too difficult for me. Yeah, that is too difficult to speak as a svenska. Yeah, svenska, I like svenska. I like svenska. Ja, tack så mycket, varsågod. Ja, tack så mycket, varsågod. I was scientist, you know. I gotta speak in English in the laboratory. I don't have time to learn foreign language, you know. Would not help me. The science is the language of science.
I mean, English is the language of English. I mean, English is the language of science. Yeah, you're tricky. They spin ball you, you know. And you as Batman, you go on deal with it. You go left, 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 right, right, left, right, left, right, left, lower, go, how you going to bloody do that? You cannot do it. Everyone's sick in hospital. Everyone's going to die. So, Andy, Harry, that is the latest. We're going all serious now. Yes, enough of that. Enough of that monkey business. What we really need to be doing is discussing the important merits or not of your application to become a general practitioner. I haven't even told you my big secret about how COVID-19 is an autoimmune disease, and we can cure it with anti-autoimmune drugs. Like I haven't even gone into any of that, but no, but that's very specialist medical knowledge, you know. You're not needing that one. Do not be telling them that one. I'm not needing you telling them that one. Thank you. Oh my God. It's just like being back in Delhi, you know. Oh, golly. Now I'm in the countryside with the country people. Oh, God, you should heard them talk. Oh, my golly. They are not like Delhi. You're so stupid. They do not even know what medicine is. They think it is chapati and rice and dal. They say, eat your medicine. Oh God, if this was of my own bloody choice, it's not. I can just about manage to get that one through. Really. Okay. Fuck, that's really stretchy. Thank you. Now can we have something serious, please? Or we'll lock you up again. They're probably not joking. Okay, we're going to stick that mutation thing on the end of that record now. Just go and snip that in using the editing technology of the Wonder Filmora. Yeah. All right. And what was the other thing? Well, all I've really got down is test benefits and mutation. Oh, oh, the second wave, man. Is that a good thing? Is that going to benefit society or not? I mean, is lockdown a good thing, and we should just be locked down regularly as a good thing to make society a better place for all kinds of reasons? We were talking about earlier how people don't stop being who they are just because I come on and do some epidemiology. They don't stop being like, whether they're policemen or lawyers or drug dealers or people who, make mobile phones. That's still who they are. They're not going to suddenly go, oh, I think I want to be an epidemiologist. You know, I've been studying this. I've been studying medicine in my spare time on lockdown. I think I'm just going to skip medical school. I'm just going to go straight into practicing it. You know, they're not really like that. Yeah, I know it sounds obvious. Makes me kind of sound a bit stupid, but basically what it means is that people listening, the potential audience with YouTube is massive. It's not like I go into the medical fraternity where people have already got A's. Everyone there has got better exam results than me, right? They've all got A's in 4 subjects. They've all got like a chest rating of like 160 plus on the ECF or something like that. They all rode for Oxford in the varsity. They've all run marathons. They've all raised £1 million for charity. What do you bring to our department, to Dr. Sutton? I can do silly voices and pretend and speak in tongues, channeling the Holy Spirit, Professor. Then I think we're in the wrong college there. You want to go try studying religious education.
we haven't really got time for religious people in our scientific fraternity. And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't ask for the Holy Spirit to speak through me and give me divine inspiration and answers, you see. I just wanted to be an actor. So why are you studying medicine? Bloody hell, you didn't ask them questions. Yeah. I was actually studying a PhD. I knew for a fact, Your Highness, that I couldn't become a doctor because I'd been told at school the only way to become a doctor was to apply to medical school to be a doctor, and if you apply to do a bachelor's of science, then you can go on to do a PhD, which is a doctorate, but you'll never be a doctor. So when I realized scientists were always going to be slaves to doctor, I decided maybe I would do a little evening class in drama. Here the girl, put a frying pan on the birdie. That is the sweetest way. Cook the birdie and do what the government tell you, or you'll end up looking very strange. Höknen böst gick halvt smörja. I källan möses så lite bösle. Hade hur man mälar in bara. I see you there. I see you. Where's you there? Have we got any of that Vorsprung dog technique, like? He always asks that. He's mad for it. Oh, God. Oh, I'm a doctor, but I don't have the patience. Oh, God. Oh, God. I cannot take any more of this. This is driving me totally ratty. You know, I'm becoming like a country pumpkin. You're knowing how I am speaking. I am knowing everything you are speaking, Mr. Doctor. What shall I do with the big boil on the end of my penis? Is it COVID-19? Because if it's not COVID-19, it's never going to get on the internet. And he said, "It's my patient." He said, "Doctor, are you out of your fucking mind? You want to put my penis on the internet with a big fucking spot on it. It is not going to get very many likes." So I did this course. Yeah, it wasn't just drama. You see, if it was normal drama, you'd probably read books. But I did his improvisation thing. Yeah, nearly killed me, man. And here I am now. I don't know who I am anymore. They just take over me, Doctor. They take over me like evil spirits. As long as we're having a laugh, I suppose. And then COVID-19 turned up. Said, "No more work for you." I said, "Oh, this is bad. This is very bad. Because if I'm not working, I won't pay them bills." And I'm serious. If I had my wife and kids and I wasn't paying the bills, she'd fucking turn me into a shoe leather, wouldn't she? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you don't want that. No, nobody wants to be turning his shoe like that. So I was listening. I was. Difficult, isn't it? Yeah, but there's times when I've got no option. So you say difficult, but that's just how it is. Coping with it. It's more people around me, to be honest, isn't it? Anyone knows what I'm talking about? You know, the Wailing Banshees and all that. It's oh god, I got a feeling I'm going to show my penis in a minute. Somebody said you were oh shit. Oh, you got any you got no Sheila in it, like. No Sheila, fucking hell. Shit fucking sinks piling up in there. I've got shirts piling up in there, and need a stitch. I can stitch. Oh, I can stitch when I'm coughing my lungs up, can I, Sheila? Let down by the fucking Aussie Brigade, I tell you. I never showed up. I feel like the bloke in fucking Platoon. Everyone fucking running off. Here I am. I'm still alive. Oh, that was a good one. Pearl Jam. It wasn't on the movie. No, it wasn't on Platoon movie. No, it was a good song. Pearl Jam. Yeah. Don't you go falling asleep on me. Wake you up. They're not my hands. Here's my head. That is not my hand. Stop doing that to my face. There's my I can't trust my own hands. Yeah. I'm not in control of myself. I'm out of control. Sometimes I'm totally in control, but every now and then it's kind of like I get taken over. No, I don't normally give vent to it like this. This is only because it's all private. You know. I felt I had to do something to spice it up. I was losing viewers. Ratings were going through the floor, mate. Yeah. There was nothing we could do. It was just like watching blood pour out of your guts. Just watching your whole life just spill out. Pour away down the drain. And your friends who knew what you were gonna be, they said, oh, I've learned my lesson. I ain't going to go like independent or nothing like that. I ain't going to argue with this authority. I know when it's a fascist authoritarian dictatorship. I know. And if that means I have to kill that leader, and I'm the NHS, I've got to go doom 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 doom. Oh my god, it's so dramatic. Yeah. I've had to actually do some work. I've been furloughed
I haven't been furloughed. No, I've been on the dole, mate. I ain't furloughed. It ain't fun, but I didn't have a wife and kids. She left me already. I have a mum and dad who had some money. They looked after me. It's not dick around, you know. I don't know why they looked after me. Oh, they didn't always. I've spent a night on the street. You know, and I don't want to go back. Anyone who says, why don't you help the homeless? To be honest, nobody's actually said it to my face. Why don't you volunteer to help the homeless? Something like that. Yeah, but they could do. But I can always say, like, I've got a PhD in immunology, it's medical. I do medical research every now and then when I can. I've got mental health difficulties, so it makes it difficult. Yeah, I haven't really asked. Yeah. Come a pandemic, it might be useful, you see. There you go. Yeah. He might be able to turn his life around, you know, get a roof over his head, done. Pay the rent, yeah, done, pretty much taken care of. I pretty much know that I've got enough to cover it, and if for any reason I'm short, I know that mum will bail me out, but she'll get really ratty for a while. Don't mean I'm going to go off and gamble and drink and smoke and womanize or whatever it is you think I might do if you were in that situation. Partly because I'm really lucky. I don't have to go on about my history and my life and all that, do I? You know, we saw some kind of duty over in Singapore when it was when it wasn't as flashy as it is now, when a lot of people hadn't seen it. But then again, those hotels are probably full of like sailors and business people and whatever it is from world travellers, jet set. Yeah, there's some people who do actually spend their life just hotel plane. They're not all rock stars. Some of them are just rich people who just think, got a bucket list, you know, 20, 30 places to see. Spend a year on a plane here, holiday there, plane here. There's probably not that many of them, I don't know. Some people just on the honeymoon. You know, everyone gets people travel a lot. People who see Singapore. You say you know Singapore, they're like, you don't know Singapore. You knew Singapore back in the old days. You know, I've seen it now. You know, whether I live there or whether I'm just travelling through, who knows? But they know it better than you do. You don't know at all. Yeah, used to live there. Left. Know what a fascist dictatorship's like. But it's a benevolent dictatorship. See, when I was travelling in India, I went travelling in India after my PhD, partly because I wanted to find a hammock and lie around a lot. Because, you know, I didn't hit the jackpot with my PhD, do you know what I'm saying? Got it, yeah, 4 years. What was I then? I don't know, maybe, let's think, 18 plus 7, about 25. Best years of my life. If I was a footballer, if I was ever going to get a premiership career, I would have thought I'd probably going to get it by the time I'm 25. Otherwise, probably won't happen unless the team win promotion or something like, you know, my local Bristol City, the boys, who they're going to make it, aren't they? They're going to get promoted. Yeah. And it would have been a long time coming. And when we celebrate, we will go around kissing and hugging each other. I won't even know after tomorrow, hopefully, but as it gets close, I might reveal my secret identity, you see. But at the moment, I kind of keep it a big secret. But here we are, 1 hour and 8 minutes. This is a never upload. All right, well, good luck to all the sportsmen and women, and good luck to Liverpool. And respect to you know, the NHS. At the end of the day, they're risking their lives for us. A lot of them, when they went into this profession, they thought, I didn't join this profession to risk my life. If I was that, I would be a soldier. Yeah. So, so as for our secrets, if you need to know, then you can inquire as to the possible cause. One of the possible causes of this disease has been lodged with the email accounts of Professor David Gray of Edinburgh That was the David Gray I referred to earlier in the previous email or whatever email. But already YouTube's now. Previous YouTube. Thank you very much. And my other person was Cambridge, John Tyke. No, John Trousdale. Trousdale to John Trousdale. Right. This was author of a famous medical textbook. Yes, immunology or something like that. Introduction or something like that. I can't remember. Very, very good introduction to immunology, but it's not the highest level. I think J. Wayne Travers is probably a little bit higher. Yep. So those two, that should be enough. John Trousdale knows a lot about MHC, probably as much as anyone. MHC presents peptide. I found a peptide. I told him. Okay. Someone else might have, I might have picked it up on the psychic wavelengths. So somebody might have already known it. That might be why I got to hear about it. But I didn't get to hear about it any other way. I've got to prove my psychic skills. Oh, like James Randi. James Randi, yeah. You might be able to pick up on James Randi's bet. Like, it might be worth a million. What do I have to say? What do I have to say? What do I have to do from here? Is it enough? Oh, I'll keep going. Say something in Spanish. I don't speak Espanol. Espanol is the dog. Espanol is the dog. Espanol, Daniel is the Spaniel. Daniel is the Spanish thinker ponker. Thinker con la papa di calan cospan afri con la tatat glucoi. Ik nak bof flash noin and babaganakan. Maybe that'll do. Absolutely no idea what it was. It was good. It was pretty good. So I almost sounded a bit Russian, Italian. Silver crown, maybe. Could be anything. You want a big sign-off. I don't know what I'm saying, man. It could be really offensive. I know when it's in English, then I can laugh it off if it's offensive. And I know how to get out of these holes. Okay, so he said enough. So something could come out. Could be a message from God, or it could just be really offensive to somebody, and therefore a message from the devil as far as they're concerned. Okay. Heis na poflash cornish mais ki colina pantoi sina pacantoi sina pas oi halatoi kaika mo si pai to fa shilana pazo. Ha no nothing I learned from my book. Okay, here from Barcelona. There's a 40 Towers reference. You know, I sometimes have to say that. Not everyone gets it. Not everyone realizes what I'm fucking talking about. There's in Barcelona, Manuel from Barcelona. Good joke. John Cleese. Yeah, John Cleese might get it. Yeah, God bless him. Sir John Cleese. Yeah. I think they should make him Lord. Don't you? Yeah, and make sure that Michael Palin gets nothing because he went around the world. So, you know, he's been around the world. Poor John Cleese, he had to go and live in like Hollywood or somewhere. Yeah. Oh, Hollywood, yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, you're making a movie. You're making a movie. Hollywood, that's what you gotta think. Hollywood, that's what we want to ending up in it. Oh. Okay, that's me done really. I'll stick on a figure of mutation if you want, and you're gonna have to work it out. I might do an overlay. I can do a sound overlay when you record it. Yeah, okay. I can't wait till I get some like real Zen meditation and let my mind come back down together. But on lockdown, I don't really feel like doing it. You know, I more feel like just like meeting a nice girl and just tell her how much I love her.